important yet often neglected topic in our society today, and that is wildlife conservation. So many of us know what it is, or at least have heard of it, but my question is, how much do we really know, and how much do we do in order to prevent it? Many of us rely on others, and today someone will speak to us more on wildlife conservation through categorization tactics in order to help prevent animal and species extinction in our quickly expanding industrial world. As a wildlife conservation major, she's participated in multiple outreach programs, one of them being the Bluebird Gap Farm, in which she worked with sheep and emu and a bunch of other different types of species. And along with this, she has also participated in helping to design better enclosures for the red panda at Mill Mountain Zoo in Roanoke. So without further ado, MarissaW.
Thanks, Shannon. Again, I'm Marissa. I'm going to be talking to you guys about conservation statuses of mammals and how we're categorizing them. Previously, I've talked to you guys about the wolverines and the Amur leopards, which are both critically endangered species. So the conservation status is pretty much how likely a species is able to stay alive in the present and in the near future. There's three main categories. There's extinct, threatened, and at lower risk, and each of those is divided into smaller categories, which are extinct, extinct in the wild, critically endangered, endangered, vulnerable, near threatened, and then least concern, which is the highest category out of all of them. So extinct, in order to be categorized as extinct, it needs to be without a reasonable doubt that all the individuals, unfortunately, are dead. There's extensive surveys that are done in their known and expected habitats, and they'll normally survey in when they're most likely to be out. And so out of the 5,487 mammals that they've categorized, 76 of them are extinct, which is about 1.4%, which is this blue sliver. So extinct in the wild, it's pretty much, they're beyond reasonable doubt that all the animals in the wild are dead. The only animals of that species are in kind of conservation areas, captivity, naturalized populations such as state parks and stuff like that. And again, extensive surveys are done in order to determine that actually only 2 of the 5,487 are exactly extinct in the wild, so it's only about 0.04%. Critically endangered have more, guidelines that they have to look for. They have to meet at least one of these 4, which are their population has to be reduced by at least 90% in the last 10 years, or about 3 generations. Their geographic range has to decline significantly. And the population size, they have to have less than 250 mature individuals. That means that at least 250 of them have to be able to reproduce. And then their extinction in the wild rate has to be about 50% that they're going to go extinct in the next 10 years. And there's only about 188 of them categorized, which is about 3.4%. Now endangered, they also have kind of the same criteria. It's just different, percentages, how much the geographic range has declined. So the population declines, this time it's only 70% in the next 10 years, 3 generations. Geographic range declines by only 5,000 kilometers squared. And then they have 2,500 mature individuals who are reproducing. And then it's at least 20% chance in the next 20 years that they will go extinct. And again, there's about 448 mammals that are actually endangered right now. And then vulnerable, which is not too bad. There's only about 505 species of mammals, and they have 50% decline in the next 10 years. 20,000 kilometers squared of range declining as well, and then 10,000 mature individuals. as well as a 10% extinction rate in the next 100 years, which is about, I think it's about 20 generations, depending. Near threatened is another kind of low category with only 323 mammal species. And this one, it's evaluated against every single criteria that I've talked about so far, but it does not qualify for either critically endangered, endangered, or vulnerable, but it is likely to be qualified as one of those three in the near future. Least concern, as I said before, this is the most populated category with 3,109 mammal species. And it's evaluated against all previous criteria, but it does not qualify, and it's not expected to in the near future. There's actually two more unofficial categories within this ranking, which is data deficient and not evaluated. Data deficient just means that a species has been monitored, it's been well studied, they just don't have enough information or not abundant information to be able to categorize them correctly. And so there's 836 that have been studied but haven't really been fit into a category yet. And then not evaluated is just species of mammals that we haven't really gotten around to critiquing and categorizing yet. So how many animals do you think have gone extinct in the last 40 years? Any guesses? Well, there's 11. And so the round island burrowing bella became extinct in 1975, and it is found off on the round island off the coast of Mauritius. And it became extinct because of the introduction of non-invasive, non-native species of rabbits and goats that kind of destroyed their habitat, their vegetation that they ate. The Javan tiger is found in the Indonesian island of Java, and it became extinct because of the loss of habitat from agricultural development. The Dutch Alpine blue butterfly became extinct also in 1979, and it can be found in the Netherlands. And it became extinct because of an increase in farming and building and the loss of its main food source. Because of the farming, they would tear down their habitat and their food source, and so they just died pretty much of starvation. The Tacopa pupfish, it became extinct in 1982. It was found in the Mojave Desert, and it was extinct because of destruction of its natural habitat. So there was these little kind of pools within this desert that, because of habitat destruction and global warming, they kind of dried up. The golden toad in 1989 could have been found in Costa Rica, and it became extinct because of pollution, global warming, and fungal infections. Somebody did a presentation on chytrid fungus, which was one of the causes of this golden toad to go extinct. The Zanzibar leopard became extinct in 1996, and it was found in Tanzania. And it became extinct because there was a bunch of superstitions around this leopard, and so there was a bunch of aggressive hunting to minimize the superstition within that area. And then the Peruvian ibex, which became extinct in 2000, was also extinct because of aggressive hunting. And then the black-faced honey creeper became extinct in 2004, and it was found in Hawaii before it became extinct because of habitat loss, disease, predators, and a decrease in its main food source. The little blue macaw could have been found, was extinct because of habitat destruction, and it was actually illegal trapping and trading for pets, and then that caused their populations to decrease and eventually became extinct. The mandarin large white, which is a butterfly, was found in Portugal. The Maida Island, and it's lost its habitat from construction and pollution from agricultural fertilizers. So that's what kind of made it go extinct. And then lastly, the West African black rhinoceros could have been found in Cameroon, and it became extinct because of hunting or poaching for their horns. So one of the organizations that kind of works with trying to save these animals is the World Wildlife Fund, and you can donate either monthly or once, and that automatically makes you a member of the WWF. And so once you do that, you get alerts on different endangered species, what's being done, rescue and relocations of different animals as well. And if you make a donation of $100 or more, you become a partner in conservation. And they actually tell you what your money is going towards, like how your donations are affecting like their goals to increase populations of endangered species. And then another thing that you can do with the WWF is you can actually adopt an animal, and they'll send you an information packet, they'll send you a plush, a picture, adoption certificate. And about 85% of your spendings actually goes towards their funding for the endangered animals. Another one is the Wildlife Conservation Society, and you can either do monthly donations and you become a wildlife protector, and that's any amount of donations. And then you can actually designate it as a beneficiary in your will. You can do a tribute gift, so you can give gifts to like a friend or your family member for like their birthday, and that money will help them as well. Or you can become a part of one of their 3 patrons, which there's 3 patrons, but each one has kind of like a breakdown. So the conservation patron has 4 different breakdowns. As you can see here, they're pretty expensive for us right now. So they range from $1,500 to pretty much $2,500 annually. And then the young patrons are actually designated to 20 to 30-year-olds, and those are about either $300 or $600 annually. And then the President's Circle is $25,000 or more annually. And each one of those gives you special benefits within this society. And so, well, like I just talked about 2 conservation organizations. There's many more all over the world. And we can do donations, we can do volunteer work, we can do internships with different programs. But everything we do kind of impacts the ecosystem all over the world. It impacts, like what we do here can impact like an animal, maybe in Mexico, or maybe even as far as like China with the myrtle leopards. So every little thing that we do can help, and we definitely want to increase our numbers of least concerned and decrease our endangered and extinct, because once an animal goes extinct, the ecosystem that they lived in and the habitat that they lived in will also decline, which causes a cascade effect of everything like falling apart, going extinct in the wild. So any little thing helps, and it's just a great thing to do, is just try to save these animals, because we never know what we can learn from them. So, any questions? Go ahead.
I've heard about captive breeding programs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything that you know about that?
I know, like with captive breeding programs, that's a great way kind of to increase populations. But a downside is they have to do genetic testing to make sure they're not inbreeding, and that also can take like a long time, which is it's like a good thing, but it's also there's a downside, because if it takes too long, then the population could already crash. Because there's a certain tipping point within each species, and once it passes that tipping point, there's not really much we can do. But captive breeding is like a helpful, I guess, tactic. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you.